She was running them at Newmarket. First and foremost, however, there were the Polaroid photographs of the Duchess, wearing only 3 strings of pearls, filleting a man whose head is not in the photographs and who has therefore never been identified with certainty. Possibly the actor Douglas Fairbanks Jr. or Duncan Sandys, Winston Churchill's son-in-law. Perhaps even the Duke of Edinburgh. The general consensus favoured Douglas Fairbanks, but the also controversial Lady Colin Campbell, the Duchess's stepdaughter-in-law, has gone on record as stating that the man was Pan Am executive Bill Lyons. The Duchess herself never revealed the truth, even in her 1975 memoirs, Forget Me Not. The court case lasted 11 days, with the judge summing up the Duchess as a completely promiscuous woman, wholly immoral. Not unexpectedly, the Duke was granted his divorce, following a judgment that ran to a near novel-length 40,000-plus words, one of the longest in history. The case itself probably cost the Duchess more than £200,000, but it didn't stop her suing in the ensuing years her daughter, her landlord, her bank, her stepmother and her servants, usually for libel and usually unsuccessfully. The 1970s were full of lavish parties, but she was forced financially to sell her house in Upper Grosvenor Street in 1978 and took up residence in Grosvenor House, from where she was finally evicted over unpaid rent in 1990, ending up in a nursing home in Pimlico. The Duchess had been Deb of the Year and one of the top 10 best-dressed women in the world. She had also, as Mrs. Sweeney, been immortalised in the words of the Cole Porter song, You're the Top. He rhymed her with You're Mussolini, and it is Mr. Sweeney who is her companion in death at Brookside Cemetery, Woking. Bélanger, Marguerite, 1840–86. There are enough notorious French courtesans to fill a book, and indeed, French libraries are full of such books. Marguerite Bélanger was a little different, hence her inclusion here. A farm girl, a bit of a tomboy, outspoken, an unsuccessful actress with thick ankles. But Napoleon III, who met her in a park in Vichy in 1863 when she was 23, was attracted by her blonde hair, black eyes and vivacious personality. It seems they met in the rain, but stories of the meeting vary enormously. She was sheltering, he was sheltering. She offered him a raincoat, he offered her a rug. He was hunting, she was riding. But meet they did, and the attraction was obviously instant. Born Julie Leboeuf, her surname gave rise to unappealing nicknames, hence her change of name once she had escaped from her life of poverty as a laundress. She became a dancer and bareback horsewoman at a provincial circus, seduced along the way by a handsome lieutenant, until ending up on the stage before she was 20. But she was not keen on criticism from the Paris audiences, and started on the road to prostitution, sometimes described as a second-rank coquette, attracting the French C-list, for instance, the son-in-law of the president. The Emperor Napoleon III was of course the supreme catch. She was his last mistress, 1863 to 1865, and said to be his favourite, until she wanted too much influence and spent too much money, such as buying 2 horses for 25,000 francs, becoming something of an embarrassment. The Empress Eugenie, who had tolerated Napoleon's previous mistresses, was less tolerant of Marguerite, and apparently confronted her, telling her that she was killing the emperor. Not that this made any difference. In 1864, Marguerite had a son, Charles, without naming the father. She may well have falsified the date of his birth to make him more likely to be Napoleon's son. Regardless of this theory, Napoleon, in his mid-50s, rather generously looked after the boy financially, settling property on him as well as on Marguerite. However, once the affair was over, she sold a hotel he had bought for her, keeping some of the land and a chateau to ensure she could maintain status and lifestyle. After more, less high-profile liaisons, she went on to marry a Prussian...